Hey, what's going on, guys? Following up my last video, who's the best player in the game, quantity versus quality. I will start off by saying that there is a difference between being the best player in the game versus the greatest player in the game. And that kind of gets into minutia, but the best is being the most talented player, and greatness or greatest player is like the most accomplished player. But again, that's kind of, personal opinion and minutia. But historically speaking, I would argue that Casanova is one of the best to ever do it in terms of modern lifestyle seduction, just from a standpoint of versatility and his longevity in the game. And I mean, Casanova is pretty much synonymous with seduction, but I have to do a whole video on Casanova. But for me, in terms of what it really means, one of the most powerful seducers of all time is Queen Cleopatra. I mean, her ability to seduce the Roman emperors and generals, Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, just speaks volumes on the power of seduction and her rise to power in war and politics. Her seducing those two men. Now, she didn't, she wasn't fucking 100 men or 1,000 men. She seduced, by her seducing those two men, they're pretty much two of the most powerful men of that time in history. Speaks volumes to the power of seduction. And who gives a fuck that you got a couple of likes on Tinder? I mean, that pales in comparison to the power that Cleopatra was able to wield through seduction. But again, she's a whole like Netflix series on Cleopatra. Now, going back to the guys in the bar and drinking beers, the quality versus quantity argument, it's an ongoing argument. But I will say that in the beginning, quantity does matter to get your reps up and practice. And it's interesting where I just started seeing this video by Story Greenlight. I highly recommend you subscribe to this channel. I really like it. And 2 days ago, he just did a video on quality versus quantity too. So running through the story, it's 5 minutes long, but as you can see, he has like this clay pot here, and there's a story in there where this professor is teaching a ceramics class, and the first half of the semester, it's about you producing as much pieces of work as you can, and you're going to be graded on how many pounds of clay you can put on the scale. So if you put 50 pounds as an A, if you put 40 pounds as a B, so on and so forth. And the other half of the class, they're graded on making one piece of pottery, but it has to be perfect. So the first half of class that had to do just put pounds of clay and create tons of work, he found that at the end of the semester, the half of class that made the most work and made pounds of clay were actually better. Their work was actually better than the guys that only had to do one piece of pottery. And the reason the quantity guys had actually better work is because they put in the effort, the trial and error. They made the mistakes, and as they kept making more and more pieces of pottery, they kept getting better because they were practicing. They were practicing, and they got better. Versus the quality guys, they were just sitting there and thinking and pondering how to make the perfect piece of pottery, and they weren't getting their hands dirty. They weren't practicing. They were doing trial and error. So again, the quantity guys put in the work, and they got better through quantity. So then the story is quantity leads to quality of work. Basically, I mean, you got to put in your reps in. You got to put in the time in the gym to get better and practice what you're doing. Same thing with basketball. If you're shooting, you got to go in the gym. You got to shoot. You got to put those hours in to refine your technique, your shooting stroke, your skills. Another example of that is fishing, right? So the old saying is, you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And when you're a kid, like it's good to, catch a bunch of fish. And what that does is it gives you the confidence to know that you can feed yourself. You could go out hunt some game, hunt some fish, and satisfy your desire to eat, right? And as you get older, and in this seduction context, as you can satisfy your sexual transmutation, because everybody's sexual appetite is different. Some people want a lot of women. Some people just want a girl that they can go out on the weekend, or a steady girlfriend. And your sexual appetite, is dependent on your sexual transmutation. But in the beginning, like if you're a kid, yeah, catch a bunch of fish, and that gives you the confidence to know that you can catch fish and hunt game when you need to. Now, if you're just catching, a bunch of fish and you're just not eating them, they're just kind of going to waste. There's no point in catching that fish if they're just gonna go to waste, right? And again, that goes to your appetite, and the same thing with your sexual appetite, your sexual transmutation. Now, there is an argument where if you're a dating coach, you should have about 100 women on your belt, a notch count, which, I could see the reason for that, especially with like guys on Facebook groups and forums giving dating advice, and they're virgins. And it's like, dude, if you're a virgin, dude, shut the fuck up and just listen. Pay attention. Don't be giving dating advice if you ain't got nothing to show for it. But that makes me think in terms of, I think Rollo Tomasi is a rational male. From what I understand, his final score, his total leg count is like 45, like between 40 and 50, if I remember correctly. But Rollo, like, he's one of like the founding fathers of the Red Pill movement. I mean, I recommend you to listen to this guy, Entrepreneurs in Cars. He does a lot of I guess these videos, these live streams, and Rollo is a top guy in the game in terms of like knowledge and really learning about games. Even though he's under 100, that you can still get a lot of value from Rollo and learn the game from him. So is he under 100? Yeah, but he has tons of game. And as far as Vanessa, the argument, the example I gave of Vanessa with Mike, John, and I, right? Vanessa, it's about the woman, and if you're seducing the woman, right? Like did these guys in the bar here? Did these guys drinking beers? It's like, why does this guy get to have a say if this guy is a good seducer or not? I mean, is he fucking you, or is he fucking the girl? Right? So if he's fucking the girl should have a say in terms of, is he a good seducer or not? So in the example I gave with in my last video with John, Mike, and me, and I, that yeah, we all banged Vanessa, and John got the notch count of banging Vanessa. But when you ask Vanessa, well, what's up with John? Oh, that dude was a 2-pump chump. Right? And from the PUA standpoint, is all they care about is the number for the most part. Oh, well, I bang. I just want to see what that pussy's like. But that dude was a 2-pump chump. But what do you think about Mike? Oh, Mike, he's cool. He's a nice guy, and he takes me to a couple of restaurants, and he invites me to go out at events. He's fun, but when it comes to the deed, he's I call him Minute Mike. He's a 1-minute man. He doesn't satisfy me. Well, what do you think about Josh? Oh, Josh, he's a real man. And when I want to feel like a real woman, I call Josh, right? That's just for example. So at night, she thinks about me. So who's the real seducer in that standpoint, where if she's willing to drop everything to come see me, right? If you watch my last video, it's a follow-up to my last video. But in the beginning, quantity matters. You want to get your reps up. You want to practice, and this is where you see guys, they'll say, how do I get the HP10s, the 9s, the dimes, and they usually start off by just getting like 7s and 8s, which the whole, grading women between a scale of 1 to 10 is, I guess, controversial as well. But for example, right, and as a man becomes a higher quality man, a better seducer, he's also going to get more quality women. But you got to put in the work. You got to put in the time and work on your skill So quantity in the beginning does matter. That's why you see guys just approaching. And again, if you can't hold the conversation, chances are you're not going to be able to get a lot of women in your life. So in the beginning, quantity matters, but once you find a way to score, once you find once you have the ability to satisfy your sexual appetite and sexual transmutation, then you will be able to move on into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But Maslow's hierarchy of needs and self-actualization is a different video in itself. But until then, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see y'all next time.